Hello! My name is Marcus Stewart, and welcome to another episode of Carving Gaming Rushmores. And joining me on today's episode are my two guests. First, I've got Mr. Freelance Game Journalist, Ian Bourdreau. Please tell me I said your name right.
Yeah, that's like I said. I answered to pretty much anything in the ballpark is fine, man. But yeah.
And the second guest we've got for news editor from Shack News, Mr. Charles Singletary.
Greetings.
How you doing, sir?
Doing well. If you want to remix my name, I've heard every variation of it as well. So you can make it a thing. I'm down.
All right, Roberto.
That one I have not heard.
Oh, there it is.
You're gonna have to walk me down the degrees of separation from like my actual name to that though.
Yeah, I was trying to go as far out of the ballpark as possible. So there we go. Roberto Singletary, nice to meet you.
Agreed.
Okay. And here on Carving Gaming Rushmores, in case this is your first time listening, what we do on the show is that we examine one gaming-related topic, and we determine the 4 premier examples of it, aka the Mount Rushmore of that topic. For example, we could sit here and talk about the top 4 games that have been leaked prior to E3 2018. God knows there's only been 27 of them. So, or something along those lines.
Yes,
but
fresh body every day.
Exactly. And all of them get delayed till next year.
Pretty much.
But here's how the show works. So in our first segment, we're going to each take 4 turns sharing our individual nominees and explaining why we picked those. And then in our second segment, we're going to take those lists of collective nominees and just try to determine a final top 4 of a nice mountain that we carved painstakingly all of our picks onto the side of, that we all chipped in together because I picked people that know how to sculpt into stone. Which I don't know if I told you guys that going into this, but I hope you guys do know how to do that, because that is exactly, we literally do carve into stone after the episode.
I did not understand that there was going to be physical labor involved.
Yeah, this might sound semi-creepy, but when I was looking for pictures of you guys, I examined your hands, and I was like, I'm looking for guys with great working hands.
Yeah.
That can...
All right.
So, you guys have those, so congratulations.
I don't know how you got me on here, because I totally hide my hands in every picture. You will find no pictures with my hands in them.
Yeah, the answer is nanomachines.
No, it's always nanomachines.
Exactly. So, but today's episode, we're going to be looking at the 4 best multiplayer shooter campaigns. Due to Call of Duty Black Ops 4 deciding to skip the campaign altogether this year, I decided that would be a really cool topic, because it's I think it's something that maybe some of us, or at least those of us that really kind of like are into multiplayer, maybe take for granted to a degree. I'm one of those weirdos that tend to play Call of Duty for the campaigns pretty much exclusively, so I was a little bit bummed out that Black Ops 4 was not going to have one. Not so much after Black Ops 3's really bizarre campaign, but still, it's going to be weird not to play one of those this year. I don't know what you guys' feelings are on that, but...
I mean, yeah, it is a little bit weird. I mean, I haven't played a Call of Duty campaign, honestly, so not since Call of Duty Advanced Warfare,
that's a good one.
Call of Spacey, which but I like them. Too. I mean, they tend to be fun, and I don't know if they rise to the level of the list, but yeah, I think they've generally been entertaining campaigns.
Okay.
I can't say that I'm going to miss them from the more recent releases, just because I felt like they weren't that interesting, just from my perspective. So if you're not going to, make something that like innovates in any kind of way, like some of the games on our list today probably did, then if you're going to scrap it and you be upfront about where your focus is, then by all means, go for it.
Sounds good. And I have already decided at random the order in which we will be sharing our picks. And Ian, you drew number 1. So lay it on us. What's your first hot pick?
Okay, so my first pick here, I kind of went back and forth on, but I'm going to say Quake 2. And this is I mean, yeah, probably out of left field a little bit, but I thought that first off, it's kind of a personal pick because I played it when it came out, and I played the first Quake. I played the original Dooms, and Quake 2 was the first one that really had anything like an accessible multiplayer. And it also was right around the time I got a 3DFX Voodoo card, and then put that in my dad's computer. So personally speaking, I think Quake 2 has a sort of relevance to me that I thought was it just resonates with me throughout the 20 years since it launched.
Okay, I'm not familiar with Quake all that much. I've never really played any of them actually, except for I think maybe I touched the first one like way back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was always wondering like, what is the actual story of Quake? If they're like...
the first Quake doesn't have a story really that I was able to ever discern, but it's it was a big deal just because it changed from that that kind of 2D sprite graphic style that you'd seen in the 3D build engine or it's kind of a 2.5D build engine for the original Duke Nukem 3D, and then the ID's Wolfenstein 3D and then Doom. But Quake was like fully 3D. The characters were 3D. The environments were really 3D. And it was a great game. But campaign-wise, it kind of falls apart after the first episode. And back then, you'd have like your shareware episode, and then the rest of the game that you would actually go and pay for, which none of us did. And I felt that the episodes got progressively weaker, and it also kind of has this really oppressive gray green look to everything. It's a very brown game, so Quake 2 really shifted that a lot. There was if you did plug that 3D card in, it was some of the first colored lighting that you would have seen, and particle effects, and all kinds of you're kind of going back to that doomy kind of color palette. And it actually did have a sort of a story, I guess. I mean, in as much as it gives you a reason for being where you are, you're some kind of Marine, you crash on a planet in an escape pod, and when you come to, there's things that want to murder you, so you just start shooting them. And I thought that it had some pretty great level design and puzzles with, all of a sudden you were raising and lowering the levels of like liquid in a room that you could then swim through, or have your armor eaten off by. Neat secrets, so that campaign was the first time I kind of felt like I was being pulled through in a kind of continuous journey through a facility that made sense together. Like the end of one level kind of made sense with the beginning of the next one, and prior to that didn't happen all that much. So for me, that was an innovative game, and it changed the way that I looked at shooters. And again, it was my first real experience with 3D acceleration hardware. So I got really excited about Quake 2, and it has a special place in my heart. So that's my first pick.
Okay, awesome. Funny, I wasn't expecting that when you were saying that you might have some somewhat expected picks. That one, you've already left hook immediately. So,
the other ones are going to be probably a little bit more mainline, but yeah.
It's funny. You'd be surprised how many people say that and they say something and I'm just like, what?
See, that's the beauty of video games, really, isn't it?
Very true.
Yeah, very, very true. Alrighty, I drew the second pick. So I'm going to go with a left field pick too. So my second pick, and I'm really curious to see if you guys ever played this, but Binary Domain.
Oh, yeah.
I own it, and I haven't played it.
Okay. Have you played it, Ian?
I have. I know that's in my Steam library, and I fired it up, but I have not played through Binary Domain.
Okay. Well, allow me to tell you why you should both do that as soon as possible. So it released in back in 2012, developed and published by Sega, and it was actually the idea came about from the Yakuza creator, whose name, apologize if I messed this up, but Toshihiro Nagoshi.
I'll buy it.
Sounds right.
Sounds about right. And it's a Gears of War-esque third-person cover-based shooter with, you get a squad and everything. And it's a game that, when it came out, it's got a bit of a cult following now, I want to say. But the general premise is that it's set in this cool world where like global warming has caused sea levels to rise, so like a lot of humanity gets wiped out. So the world turns to robotics to kind of like make up the rest of the workforce. So people start developing like lifelike androids, and eventually like international law makes it where like, okay, you can make androids to work, but they just can't resemble humans exactly, because you know that'll create some confusion. And I think they called them hollow children, like as the name for two human androids, I guess. But then this incident kicks off where like an android murders in, I think, like a diplomat or someone of importance. But the kicker is that the android doesn't know that it's an android. Like it thinks it's human, so it sets off this like big debate about like, okay, well, what do we do? And like this like fear mongering of like androids living among people that didn't think they think that they're human, like they legitimately don't know if they're human or not. So it's actually kind of a Westworld-ish kind of thing.
Yeah, I was going to say
that show.
We're kind of having a resurgence of Blade Runner type themes now. And I mean, Detroit Become Human just came out too. I mean, that's kind of a thing there. But it's interesting. I had no idea that was the premise of the game at all.
Yeah, I didn't know
trust
that
me.
either.
And you wouldn't know if you fire that game off. When I remember when I first started it, I was pretty down on it because the writing, or at least the dialogue and the characters, are really, really dopey. Like your main character is a guy named Dan. Don't remember his last name, not even worth remembering, but his nickname was like the Survivor, and they really pound that into your head within the first hour of why he had that nickname. And your best friend is a cool guy named Big Bo.
Nice.
And he's pretty awesome.
All right.
And eventually you assemble a relatively big cast, including at one point your own robot who can talk and fights with you. And I believe he has a French accent because I think he's owned by France or something. So it gets almost it kind of honestly reminds me of Metal Gear in that the game gets really stupid and dumb, but it manages to maintain a serious story that you take seriously.
Yeah, I'm on board with all this.
Yeah, and it plays surprisingly well for a Gears kind of like ripoff. A cool thing about it was that it was doing this this choice-driven like squad relationships where there's dialogue choices within the game, and you have to make decisions, and sometimes your squad members may agree or disagree with what you're doing, and that affects your relationship standing, where like in battle, if they like you a lot, they'll perform better, but if they're not cool with you, they might just like not leave you to die, but they just won't help you out as much. So you're actually having to decide how you want the story to proceed and kind of take everyone's opinion into account. So like there are downtime moments in between the big action sequences where you're just going around talking to people and kind of like getting everyone's input. Like, okay, I don't think you should talk to that guy or whatever. And you're like, well, screw you, dude. I got to do it or whatever. I think they called it a consequence system. So sums it up pretty well. Yeah, the game, it doesn't always knock it out of the park, but it tries to do quite a bit. Like with that, and also they tried these voice command squad commands where you would just like literally speak through a microphone, or I think the Kinect if you were playing the 360 version, to order your squad around, and that did not work at all, but they tried to do something different. So I respect them for that. But the story goes through kind of like the general tropes of like what it means to be human, and you know the morality of AI, like, you know, if they're sentient, do you can't just kill them, or you treat them like people. But it does a good job of telling that story, again, for how dopey a lot of the writing can be at times, and it actually manages to end on a pretty interesting and emotional twist. Yeah. So it's a cool game. It's one of those games I remember walking away from just generally surprised at how good it wound up being. Like, it takes a lot of crazy turns, and also the enemies are cool. Like, you're fighting robots mostly. The way they blow up is cool, like the particle effects and how they just explode into like almost like glass, and you're fighting like crazy mechs and just really over the top, like, again, like Metal Gear-y, just levels of ridiculousness in some of the enemies. Yeah, I would love a sequel to it. I think it kind of ends on a note that suggests it could happen. It's been 6 years now since it came out, but I would definitely not cry if if Sega gets tired of remaking Yakuza games, if they can go back to this someday. But yeah, just wanted to give that game a quick shout out.
Absolutely. No, I've got to go back and check that out now. It sounds like it's definitely my jam.
And also, you can play co-op, so you two can play together.
Nice.
Yeah, definitely gonna have to do that because like I've not had anyone break it down like that, like what it's about. But I'd heard that it was good, which is why I have it, and I never took which that's the case for a lot of games in my Steam library at this point. But I just didn't take the time to play it. But I'm gonna have to do that.
You guys are gonna have to argue who's gonna be Big Bo because he's the best character.
We'd fight over it.
We have to fight over Big Bo, yeah.
Alrighty. All right, Charles, what's your first pick?
All right, my first pick is, kind of a traditional choice, but not really, and it's Brothers in Arms, the very first one, which is Road to Hill 30. And you'll have to forgive me for like some of my choices because I don't remember every single like crucial beat in the campaign. But
that's okay.
One of the biggest things for Brothers in Arms and why I wish we still got those games is the tactical aspect of it and actually working as a squad in single player. Because we loosely get that in some of the other games, but not really. Not to the point where you're actually, sending your teammates to different positions to actually like flank and things like that and work as a team. I've seen it in kind of some other lesser known shooters or not as popular, like Star Wars Republic Commando. Did y'all ever play that one?
Yes, I have. Yeah. In fact, I think I just tried to... I fired that up not that long ago because I got it in a Humble Bundle or something. But
so did I. I didn't start it up, but I definitely got it. And that was another one where I really appreciated the squad dynamics. Now, that one, it wasn't as fulfilling in that regard as Brothers in Arms was, but I really hate that series didn't continue going. Like we have that one game from them that's in limbo, but it seemed like it was kind of like a 4-player, more wacky game. Like it was completely different.
Wasn't that the kind of like Inglourious Bastards kind of thing they were going for? Oh man, I forgot about that. Wasn't it called like Fury something?
It was something ridiculous.
I totally forgot about that. That got canceled, right?
Yeah, I don't even know if it was officially canceled. It just might be one of those vaporware things at this point. But I assume after this amount of time, they can't dedicate resources to something like that, so it's probably been canceled. But the Brothers in Arms series as a whole was wonderful, and that first game before that I'd played games. I'd played Call of Duty. I'd played Medal of Honor Underground. It's also a favorite. It didn't make my list. That game is actually topical right now with all the talk about women and military shooters, as a matter of fact. But that's a conversation for another time. But Medal of Honor Underground was incredible. And all of those other ones were good too, but this one just changed everything for me as far as what can be done in a single player campaign as far as commanding squads and stuff. Plus, I gravitate towards tactical games in general, real-time strategy. Me and Ian have discussed this a little bit in the time that we've known each other. So, yeah, that's my first choice.
Just on that, I thought I kind of limited my picks to first-person shooters, but that's such a great game. And the only one that I can think of that even like attempts the same kind of like tactical movement was Full Spectrum Warrior, which was a modern.
My goodness! I totally forgot about that game.
Yeah, I only just thought of it now because I think I played them around the same time. But both of those were and we've never really seen that happen again. Where you've got kind of 2 4-man squads, I think, in Full Spectrum Warrior. But yeah, I mean, it was similar where you were kind of covering for each other and laying down suppressive fields of fire. That was great. So yeah, no, I love Brothers in Arms. That's a good pick, man.
Yeah, Full Spectrum, good call out on that one too. Because if I had thought about it, it would have been in that conversation. I don't know if it would have topped anything else. But that was another game that I really appreciated for its different take on things.
Nice. And this is the first Brothers in Arms, right?
The first one, yes.
Okay. What's the subtitle?
Road to Hill 30?
Road to Hell 30. Hill 30, not Hell.
Road to Hill 30.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sweet. All right, Ian, second round. Kick us off.
This is probably a pretty safe pick compared to the first one anyway. But I'm going to go with Halo Combat Evolved.
Fantastic choice.
I mean, I don't think you can have this conversation without at least discussing Halo. But that was, I mean, that's the thing that moved Xboxes back when when that first came out. But it was also just a good game in its own right. I mean, Bungie, is now on to Destiny 2, and a lot of what makes that game good is the experience and the time and attention that the studio has been putting into the way that weapons feel. For 18 years, right? Like it shows in the new game, and that was there in Halo after they had been working on marathon games, I think, for the Mac back in the 90s. So Halo, of course, Master Chief goes to this ring world to help rid it of aliens. There's a great turn, I think, in the campaign where you start fighting the Flood. That was in the first one, right?
That was the first one, yeah.
Yeah.
That was the big twist, yeah.
That was the big turn. And so sorry, spoilers for Halo Combat Evolved, but the whole, like, everything about that. I mean, I you've got to give it credit too, because it was such a great multiplayer experience if you were into running around and capping your friends with that little pistol. But yeah, it was a gorgeous game at the time. It's going to be a little rough not to play like a remastered edition now, but I had a really good time with that. And then back then everybody would bring their Xbox over and you could daisy chain 4 of them together and have, kind of a little LAN party on your Xbox. So, but I thought that campaign was just consistently fun. You had interesting combat encounters all the way through. I don't know if I care much about the story, but just mechanically speaking, I think, that was just a really, I mean, it hit the ground running and really did not stop all the way to the end. So Halo's on there. I think, there's little that I can say that hasn't already been said about Halo, but yeah, that's my number 2 pick.
I'm so glad you picked that, because I actually played Halo for the campaign, at least, for the very first time earlier this year, because I have the Master Chief Collection.
Yeah.
And because I never played, with the exception of Reach and 5, which is very weird, until I got the collection, those were the only 2 campaigns I'd ever played to completion.
Oh, wow.
Sure.
And yeah, because I didn't have an Xbox, the original Xbox at the time, so my Halo experience was just a plethora of LAN parties playing multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of the single player, just hearing Halo fans get so invested in that lore, I didn't have any context for it, and I was always curious about it. Like, I played Reach around the time that launched, and that was my first exposure to it. But there's no Master Chief in that. And then I played 5. Like, I played. It's weird. I played the earliest and the latest in the timeline, and then I was like, I guess I should play the stuff in between. So 5 was a weird thing to play when you have no idea what any of the stuff that came before. So, I'll save it for the second segment. But I'm very excited to kind of offer a kind of first timers modern day perspective of going through that campaign.
No, I'm definitely looking at it through rose-colored glasses, because I have not revisited it in 10 or 12 years anyway. So,
okay, no, I'm not saying it's bad. Well, we'll see.
We will see. Yeah,
we will. Okay, sweet. Halo, gotcha. Alrighty, my second one. I'm gonna fast forward to this generation, and one of my favorite campaigns to emerge in recent years, and one that caught me off guard again, is Titanfall 2.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys play Titanfall 2?
Oh, yeah.
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 That, that campaign, to me, it's nothing short of remarkable how good that campaign is. Because I went into that, I remember being disappointed when the first Titanfall was announced not to have like a traditional campaign. It had like a multiplayer campaign, but I personally couldn't get into it, even though I was in love with the concept of the game itself. So I was very pumped to hear that 2 had one, but still, even being made by like one half of the the minds behind the Modern Warfare games, which are fantastic campaigns for Call of Duty, I didn't expect it to be as out there as Titanfall 2's campaign is. If you haven't played it, or if you play Titanfall in general, like, the general premise is that you're in this future and you play as a pilot, who gets control of his own mech called a Titan. And there's different kinds of Titans, and generally you pilot one and you go around and mess up bad guys. That's pretty much the long short of it.
It's kind of like the Western cross between BattleTech and Gundam. So
pretty much.
Oh my goodness, yeah, that's a wonderful comparison.
Yeah, and again, there's even a little bit of Metal Gear-y kind of weirdness.
Oh yeah,
with this
that campaign goes some places. Yeah,
yes, it does.
Yes, especially with the rogues gallery of villains that you fight throughout it.
Oh,
and
so cool.
So what's cool is that they focused on this bond between your character to pilot and your mech, BT, who I've never looked this. Okay, I was like, do you actually remember the number?
I looked at, well, for reasons that will become clear shortly, I looked it up before we went live, and
okay.
But
so yeah, BT.
I believe it's 7672. Hold on, where did I put it? But yeah, anyway, go ahead.
Okay, his street name is BT, and he may. I've always meant to look this up and never did. But was he voiced by Peter Cullen, who does Optimus Prime? Because he sounds so much like Optimus Prime, and that's what made me fall in love with him immediately. I was like, oh my god, I'm just controlling Optimus Prime.
I never looked into that, but he definitely did.
7274. Sorry, but I don't know if he was Optimus Prime. That's the first I've actually heard of that. That would be amazing, though.
Yeah, I remember thinking, I was like, is that him? It's like, it's whoever it is sounds freakishly close. But yeah, and it builds this relationship where, like, you know, you get this mech, if I remember correctly, BT originally belonged to, like, your mentor pilot, and then he gets killed in this conflict, and then he leaves it to you, basically. And so BT has to, or like you guys are getting used to each other, and it's kind of like it's almost like a weird kind of buddy cop kind of thing of like these two disparate personalities. Like he's really kind of reckless and just, you know, really gung-ho, and BT's very logical, and, you know, like he's trying to teach BT like human slang and all this stuff, and they do kind of the running joke of like BT taking things really literally, and it's really cute in a way that's that's unexpected. But so like the story aspect, it's endearing to watch those characters, and the story is a lot of fun. It's balls to the wall, dumb, actiony Gundam Metal Gear crap where you're fighting all these crazy, just this really colorful cast of villains and all these really insane mechs. But the way that the campaign design is insane, because every mission brings something different, like mechanically. Like you're doing crazy platforming like challenges, because, you know, when you're outside of your mech you can do parkour, so like the levels are designed in a way where, in a really fun way, of like challenging you to like run across walls and jump across to, you know, get all these crazy obstacles. Like there was the what was that, the one crazy mission where you're in the assembly line.
Yeah, what's that called? But it's putting together a diorama that is going up the entire time, and it's being bent around these crazy conveyor belts, and you're seeing like sod go onto the ground and walls and doors being added, and then furniture is being added to these modules, and they're constantly going up to above you, and that's and the level finishes with you fighting on the stuff that you've watched come together the entire time. It's absolute genius.
Yeah, wonderful. And even like a cool bit of world building too, of like, oh, this is how like houses and towns are built.
Yeah,
in this like super high future. Yeah, like just, and of course there's the really famous mission that kind of gets cited, the Effect and Cause mission, the time traveling mission.
Oh, that's incredible. I always point towards that one when I'm trying to convince people to play it, because that's something I definitely did not expect in that game.
Yeah, it's insane. Like it comes out of nowhere. And like, as it's literally, you get to a point where you're legit traveling through time, and you're going through like past versions of the areas that you're in, and you kind of have to navigate between the past and the future to get past obstacles, and you're fighting enemies in both timelines. Like it's, like I said, like the story goes so many places, and it keeps you engaged throughout. Like it's just a roller coaster ride of just like, what's coming next? Like how can this, like, you think it can't top itself, basically. Like, well, that was insane. What can come next? And then next segment, you're fighting like armies of like other mechs, and then like and then like, yeah, it's just, It's nuts. It's an absolute bonker.
Like actual space-time collapses at one point. I mean, it's
That's right. And what's also cool is that you get multiple ways to get through missions because you can stealth your way through some stuff. You can just blow your way through. There's multiple paths. It's not linear. It's just like the level design is insane. It's insanely good.
And it's so kinetic as a game, and the levels are all designed to take full advantage of that. I mean, it's such a well done. And the other thing is it's incredibly lean. Like you can get through it in 5 hours or less. I mean, like it's quick, and it leaves you're done and you want more. But I think that's the way to end off a campaign like that. I mean, it's just adrenaline from the start to finish, and there is absolutely no fat on that campaign whatsoever.
Yeah, very true.
There really isn't. It's insane. It's quite a triumph, and that's why it's my number 2. I think Titanfall 2. So
perfect.
As you can tell, I can't gush enough about it. Okay, Charles, what's your number 2?
Well, since I feel like this one is on all 3 of our lists, should we go ahead and get it out there now?
Sure.
Okay, Titanfall 2 is definitely on my list. And my perspective is a guy that never touched the first one, actually. Because like I liked the concept, I was a fan of the team putting it together, but because it was strictly multiplayer, at that particular time I didn't have any interest in it. Like it was like a curiosity, but I was like, I'm not gonna pay full price for that. I have all these other things that I'm trying to play at the time, and then before it became like, you know, a deal that I could get where it was like $20 or something, my interest was gone. So I didn't even check it out. But then the second one, when they announced that it had a campaign, my interest was piqued once again. And I mean, you've said it all as far as the campaign. Like it is what I would like to have in modern shooters now. Like it was quick, it was to the point. It introduced unique mechanics throughout the levels as you went through it. Like I was legitimately when you get to the effect and cause part of the game, I was blown away that they made that like that level's mechanics just for that area. Like there
that
could
never
be an
happens
entire
again.
yeah, like you never see it again. There are totally developers that would build an entire game around that, and it was good enough where that could work. But they had it just for that level, and that blew my mind.
Yeah,
and I wish we could get these 5 to 6 hour campaigns of that quality in these other shooters, because I am one of the people that I do still enjoy the single player campaign. As a matter of fact, with Titanfall 2, I never played the multiplayer in the second one. Still, like even with having the single player and paying for the game, I still didn't do it. And I think Ian, you may have been a part of why I played Titanfall 2. You and someone else. Yeah,
I'm glad if I was, because man, that's it's a good one.
It was like I can't, like, even just going all the way as far back as possible, it's still one of the most interesting and fun and exciting campaigns for a game that I've actually ever played. So yeah,
especially it's funny, like as a weird quick aside, like you mentioned the original Titanfall and like it only having multiplayer, like not flying. I wonder, like, it almost seems like that was before its time, because in a post-Overwatch world, I wonder if the first Titanfall would be much better received now.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, EA would probably launch it right between Battlefield and Call of Duty coming out again, so it probably would...
Oh, yeah, they did.
Yeah, just failure once again.
Yeah, like, it was just so... Just conceptually, if that came out today, I think there would be less people being like, what the hell?
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be weird at all. Yeah,
they would have to have given it a lot of personality, though, because if you think of a Titanfall leaning more towards the side of an Overwatch, you get what is the game that just fell apart?
Lawbreakers.
Yes, Lawbreakers. You
almost.
Get that.
Yep,
game.
I think you're actually right.
And I love that game. I really enjoyed it, and I really hate that it got crushed like it did. But they just didn't. They didn't focus on some of the things that have made Overwatch popular while they were trying to get into that lane, and it just it didn't work out. Like it's a great game. It is much more difficult. I feel like no disrespect to people that play Overwatch, because I see people that are amazing at that game that I would never be able to compete with. But just the control scheme for Lawbreakers was a lot more complex. And I think they were kind of embracing that in kind of an elitist sort of way.
Yeah.
Which ultimately ended up being their downfall.
Well, and it's late to the party too, and I think that kind of bore out with the not to get too far afield, but coming out with Radical Heights.
Yeah.
Boss Key came out with Lawbreakers after Overwatch was already dominating that kind of class-based shooter space, and didn't make a dent. And then their follow-up was to jump into the battle royale space, which was already dominated by something else. So
exactly,
like you're going into there's already a big dog in the house right now, and like you better also be a very big dog if you're going to try to compete. And I don't think that was what they were ready to do. So
yeah,
I mean, it's not even about the quality of the game. It's just late to the party, I think, for both those games. Yeah. Except in Radical Heights, which was, that was totally busted.
Yeah. I'm just gonna say Titanfall 3 Battle Royale mode.
Yeah.
No,
man.
No.
100 mechs.
If they had
all dropping at once.
If they had a full-on space Gundam mode or something where you're like out in the orbit, doing 0G stuff, I'd be definitely into that.
Yeah, that'd be pretty incredible.
Yeah. All the mechs sound like Transformers. That's all I want.
That'd be great.
Yep. Bumblebee has to come back. Yeah.
So, Ian, you have Titanfall 2?
Titanfall 2 is on my list as well.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
I mean, I think you guys have covered it already, but I mean, the only thing that I would add is that, and I think you mentioned, somebody's already mentioned that, I mean, this was a team behind Modern Warfare, that Respawn that created Titanfall. And I did play the first game. I'm terrible at the multiplayer. I always was. But I really, really liked it. And all the weapons feel good. The connect when you use the Titan to punch another one feels good. Running on the walls feels good. So just in terms of moving around in the game and shooting stuff, which is kind of the bread and butter of your shooter genre, they just nailed that so well. It's an incredibly well crafted game that way. So, but that's all I'd add. But yeah, Titanfall 2 is definitely on my top. It's on any short list I have for best campaigns, especially in the shooter space. So, but yeah, Titanfall 2. I think we've got a lock on that one for the
for that's going into
Rushmore. That's probably yep. Okay, so let me just get this order correct. So that was my second. We'll say that was your second too, Charles, and then I guess that's your crap.
That'd be my
third,
I guess. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we'll move into round 3 then. So my third, to go back, or I guess the same year actually as Titanfall. So people forget Titanfall came out in a year where shooters were kind of dominating, and like all the shooters were great.
Mm-hmm.
It was the same year that Overwatch launched, as well as this game, Doom, the new Doom. 2016 Doom.
Oh yeah,
as we call it. Yeah, so you can't have a list of best shooter or anything really without a Doom somewhere on there.
Very true.
Mm-hmm. And it's crazy because I didn't really grow up playing Doom all that much because I didn't have a PC as a kid. So I played it a couple times. I remember a friend of my mom's had it on her computer because she was cool, I guess.
Yep, she was definitely cool.
She was the cool friend of the mom, and I played it for the first time with her and was turned on by it, but I didn't play enough to get sucked into it the way people were in '93, I believe, when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
So this new Doom was the first real kind of exposure I had with it, and I loved it. It's the word I think of when I think of the new Doom is just refreshing. Because I've played so many first-person shooter campaigns, and after a while, they all follow the same tropes, especially post-Modern Warfare, of
mm-hmm.
The scripted set-piece moments, different classes, weapon types, class-based weaponry, and, they all start to feel samey after a while, where this one just said, no, let's just take things back and just simplify what a shooter experience is like, of like just speed and just blasting everything. And it does this so well where like I remember just feeling like I was out of breath playing after multiple levels.
Sure. Yeah.
You're just running through, the frame rate smooth, especially on console, which is insane. It's like frame rate is amazing and it looks fantastic graphically. And you know, you don't reload, you don't auto heal, you're picking up health packs. Like, it's very much a 90s style shooter, but it somehow makes it work in modern times. And a lot of that because it plays like an action game at times than like I guess what you would think of like a modern shooter, because you're just running around it blasting everything, jumping on top of, like, climbing on over enemies, or like leaping over platforms to blast dudes. They added the what were those things, the glory kills, which were new for the seals. Yeah, which was kind of one of the big question marks going into it in terms of like, would that hinder the speed at all? But they implemented it so well because they're so quick and snappy, where, you know, like you would knock a foe into a vulnerable state, and then you just do like a quick little like animation, like ripping their head off or kicking them or whatever. And it's so fast that it never actually breaks your momentum, and it's actually really satisfying to do, where I was actually glory killing constantly. And it's the level design is big and open, like it kind of encourages exploration, you're finding secrets, like it's crazy because nothing, or not nothing, but like little of what it's doing was really like new. It hadn't been done in that old way in so long, so it felt, you know, it's like the definition of making something old feel new again. And it's just such a balls to the wall experience of just like when that game is firing on all cylinders, which it kind of is for the duration of it.
Yeah. It's another game that takes very few pauses to breathe.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, you're just running around, punching things, blasting shotgun blasting, sending people's intestines flying everywhere, jumping to the next platform, demons showing up, blasting them. And another weird thing about it is that the narrative is, I don't think, at least I won't say it, I don't know if a lot of people play Doom for the narrative. I don't think that's a destination.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that probably not. And I'm not saying that Doom, the new Doom's narrative is like BioShock or anything, but for what my expectations were and for what it is surprisingly engaging just for what they kind of introduce in that world, where you're the Doom guy who awakens and I guess has, because like it's within the same canon as the original game, so like the Doom guy has become this like feared and worshipped like deity among hell.
Yes.
And you're in this world where like you wake up and like this Earth corporation is trying to find ways to harness hell energy for big business, and the like head of this,
so perfect.
You know, it's so dumb. And the head of this,
but it's great.
And the leader of this movement is like this brilliant scientist who at some point lost his body, so he transfers his consciousness into like this 8-foot tall robot.
Yes.
Who's just wants to find hell energy, and he's kind of your guide for a majority of the game, and you're trying to stop a rogue employee who's trying to open up the gates in hell entirely. And it's dumb. It's really dumb, but it's amazingly dumb. It's the good kind.
Like, perfect.
It's such a Megadeth album cover the entire way through. Like it's just, I mean, yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll have more to say about it in a minute.
You're not wrong. I mean, you're not wrong about that. It definitely is. Like everything. It kind of reminds me of what Brutal Legend, that when that was coming out, every
100%.
That could be an album cover. Like, absolutely, Doom is the same thing of like just screenshot anything and slap it on a vinyl or something.
Yeah,
and I'll buy it. So, and I'm trying to think what else. The weapon upgrade system was cool. Like, every weapon had, I believe, like 3 different unlockable tiers. It got stronger, so it gave you incentive to not only murder things, as if you need more incentive, because doing that is a blast, but also just searching stuff out. And for me, it gave me a lot of reason to swap out and try different weapons because of how much they change, and also because of how well everything feels and performs in that game, which for a lot of shooters is really hard to do. You kind of, at least I find myself sometimes settling into like the same general loadout
Yeah.
once you get comfortable with it. Whereas, Doom, I had my favorites, but I wanted to try everything because everything felt so satisfying.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah, and then they keep it interesting throughout the adventure by letting you upgrade it and having it unlock new abilities.
And it's neat too because you can slot things on and off, so you can kind of change the way that, like, if you upgraded your weapon one way, you can pull that off and put the other attachment on, and so there's a lot of there's kind of surprising amount of weapon diversity with that kind of basic 90s. Here's your 8 guns loadout. So that was good. Yep, Doom.
So, Doom. Yep. It's like to say about that. Do you guys have that on your list too?
Yeah.
It's not on my list. Doom is not on
mine.
mine.
It's on yours? Yeah. It's on yours, Ian?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Nice. I want to thank you for actually having Doom on there and Quake because if any of my Shag News compatriots were to listen, they'd be very insulted by the fact that I have neither of them on my list.
we can hear them booing and hissing in the background,
pretty much
throwing their popcorn at their computer or whatever.
Yeah.
All right, Charles, what you got next?
So I totally thought of another game that I can't not include it on here just because of just how I felt when I played it. And it's another one that falls into the similar space of Brothers in Arms, and that game is Ghost Recon 2 Advanced Warfare.
Okay.
Which I'm very sad to learn is not on Steam, and that really hurts my heart because I need to play it again. But it is another one where that was my first legitimate Ghost Recon that I played. I touched the originals a little bit, but this is the first one I really invested time in. And it was just, at the time, it was a beautiful game. And the campaign, it had the tactical elements of Brothers in Arms. So that was like the first appeal for me. You could send your unit off to different places and stuff and attack things from different directions, but you also had airstrikes and support that you could call in. You had this large like robot thing that you could move through that was like a mobile hub for all of you. That was really cool. And just how fluid the campaign was, because they masked the load times really well. So it really felt like you were dropped into this futuristic conflict in this war zone and everything goes to complete shit and you have to fight your way out of it. And the campaign felt like one really huge set piece, and it was really just one of the best experiences that I'd had. And I think I played it on Xbox. Was it 360? Yeah, Xbox 360 at the time. And just like with Brothers in Arms, there's just not a lot of, like, I have 2 of them on my list, but not a lot of the games replicate these types of experiences. And it felt like that game had a multiplayer mode. But like some other ones that, at least one I know that is going to be on this list, it felt like they put more into the single player campaign than they put into the multiplayer. Or even just equal, because it doesn't feel that way all the time. With like more recent Call of Duties and Battlefield and stuff, it doesn't feel like they put as much effort into those. Like, not to say that it's effortless for them, because developers work really hard, but it just feels like there's a lot more attention to it, and it felt like there was a crap ton of attention put into Ghost Recon 2's single player campaign.
Yeah,
So
awesome.
That's my third choice. That one bumped a couple off. Oh, it was tough, but it had to be done.
I never got a chance to play that. I'm sorry that I didn't. I my Rainbow, my Tom Clancy experience kind of starts with the first Rainbow Six game. And then, what else did I hit over the course? A couple of the Rainbow Sixes. I think I played the first Ghost Recon and never really got into it.
Yeah.
And then I jumped into Wildlands this past year. And,
it was a little rough.
Beautiful environment, but man, like that tactical element that you're talking about is totally absent. I mean, you have 3 dudes with you, and you just pick 3 guys in the place that you're looking at and highlight them, and then tell them to erase those people, and it happens. It's fine. So
yeah,
although
that's
I will have
what
to get
killed Wildlands for me, because I was hoping for that Ghost Recon 2 experience.
Yeah, and it's just not there. They did. I mean, I got to give them credit though, because they did add the Predator to that game.
Yeah, they did.
And Sam Fisher, from Splinter Cell has now appeared in in Ghost Recon Wildlands for some reason. So
I will say I'm disappointed. I will say I'm disappointed that they, and this wasn't my idea. I forgot whose idea this was, but it was brilliant. Of like, someone said they shouldn't have announced Predator. They should have just dropped him in there.
That
I
was
think that was Alex Navarro at Giant Bomb. He said that they screwed
that
up.
sounds about right.
Yeah. They screwed up.
The squad starts getting picked off. That would have
been like just emulate the movie. Like just have people find this thing and just hear the stories of like, I swear to God, I saw the Predator.
I'm kind of mad.
Everyone else saying that person is insane.
I'm totally mad they didn't do that now.
They build it up pretty well. Like when you kind of stumble across this thing in the jungle in one of the regions in the game, and there's this like hysterical woman crying in the jungle, and like your guys start talking about like, geez, the cartel's doing some really messed up stuff around here, and you come across this thing that's clearly from the Predator movie where there's like skeletons skinned in the tree. You're like, oh my God, how sick do you have to be? And they're clearly talking about the Santa Blanca cartel. And anyway, and then you kind of venture further, and there's the Predator's ship crashed in the jungle. You're like, what the hell is this? And then all of a sudden, everything kind of gets real bad. So, but yeah. It's funny. Like, I'm glad that it wasn't a great game, but you can kind of salvage things a little bit by saying, all right, fine, we're just going to be silly, and that's fine.
Hey, why not? Silliness fixes everything.
I'm down for it. So,
all right, we are in the home stretch. So,
So yeah, I mean, I think which one mine. Like Doom is my final pick. And again, you hit on. I think the important highlights. I mean, it kind of sneaks in here on a technicality because the multiplayer for it was not good, and I don't think anybody really picked it up for that. It wasn't actually that bad, but I mean, it certainly wasn't anything to write home about, which is in total contrast to the single player campaign. Marcus, you mentioned too, people they'd seen that glory kill thing in the E3 demo, I think. And we were really, I think everybody was kind of freaked out. It's like, this is going to slow things down. This is what Doom's about. But far from that being the case, I think that glory kill system actually like it pulls you forward. And it actually weirdly makes the game faster because you're always charging into combat. And I think the only thing that I'll add is the way, I can't remember who said this, but they made this comparison. In Dark Souls, you're trapped in a room with demons, and in Doom, demons are trapped in a room with you.
Yep, spot on.
And I think that pretty much nails it for me. So,
you know what I just thought of? It's that Doom feels like at times it feels like first person God of War.
Kind of is. Yeah.
Especially the glory kill stuff, like Kratos' executions. They have a similar kind of beat. Obviously, Doom's is faster, but just the term like the raw, just kind of like viciousness of it.
Yeah.
Like maybe that's why I liked it so much because I'm a huge God of War fan. Is like, oh, this is just this really in a way, but just in first person, so it's even more just visceral because you're just like just your face is right in your guts.
You grab like the eyes out of a cacodemon and just feed them to it. It's just the best. And what was it? The other thing I wanted to point out too was I think that's Mick Gordon's best score that I've ever heard. Mick Gordon, obviously Australian crazy metal electronica type dude. He's on the soundtracks for the new Wolfenstein games, for instance. But man, that Doom soundtrack,
killed it.
So good.
He killed it. Definitely,
it's good. Yeah. All right.
So yeah,
Doom.
that's Doom.
Alrighty. So my final pick is a World War II game. I feel like you got to have at least one World War II game on here. But because I have a penchant for liking weird stuff, it is an alternate take on World War II, and that is Resistance: Fall of Man.
Nice.
Okay.
It's a
very nice
Insomniacs.
Choice.
Yeah. So this was developed by Insomniac, Ratchet and Clank, Spyro the Dragon, upcoming Spider-Man game. This was their debut new IP on the PS3. It was actually a launch title for the PlayStation 3, and one of the best launch titles probably ever because what it is very different for what they were doing before they'd done just kind of cartoony platformers, and for this they switched to a first-person narrative shooter where, like I said, set in World War II, but in this reality, aliens invade Earth in the middle of the war, and so everyone kind of has to like shift their attention to this alien threat, but the aliens are so much more advanced and numerous that the like humanity is losing this war, basically. And so you're just kind of fighting something of a war of attrition or survival at this point. So what's cool about it is at the time, from a pure technical standpoint, it was at least for me, the most enemies and just on-screen action occurring at once I'd ever seen in a game, and was a great showpiece of what the PS3 could do. Like, you're just running down battlefields and you're just seeing ships flying in and just all these little skirmishes between your forces and the Chimera, who are the alien threat, and just all the crazy weapon effects and explosions. And I was like, oh my god, like this is like Saving Private Ryan, but just like a sci-fi take on it.
Yeah.
Like, just stuff is just happening all around me, and it's insane. And what I love most about it, because I'm a huge Ratchet and Clank fan, and I like that they took the weapon wheel from that series and brought it over here, because it works so well with a shooter where instead of just kind of doing the Halo hitting triangle or Y to switch between two arms, you got a full wheel of weapons that you just quick selected. And it's something that even to this day you don't see super often anymore, but like not as regularly as I feel like you should, because it works so well and it's so convenient. And it kind of dispelled the myth for me that shooters can only have, like, you can only have two arms, like having too many weapons would break the game or not be as much fun. But the Resistance proved that if you have enemies that are interesting and varied enough, then you can give the player just a bunch of wacky weapons at once, because you're forced to kind of cycle through different weapons to take on different threats. Because the Chimera come in all these different shapes and sizes. There's like the standard grunts. There are those creepy, like, tall ones. They're like long and skinny. There are the what were like the weird, like the ones that run at you. I can't remember if they might have been in the first game. I'm getting the games mixed up, but like generally it was kind of Gears of War. Like, think about the different enemy classes in Gears of War.
Yeah.
It was like Resistance kind of rivaled them, and it's funny because they kind of released within a year of each other. But I loved messing around with all the weapons, and because it's Insomniac, the weapons were just like kind of like a grounded wackiness where like so the auger is one I always go to. I think it's one of the best weapons in any shooter ever, whereas one of the Chimera weapons, and it could shoot through walls, and the bullets or the energy blast would get stronger if it traveled through surfaces. So it kind of gave you incentive to try to target through walls and kind of see if you could set up different strategies. And it also had a shield attached to it, the block incoming shots, like just crazy weapons like that. I thought were really inventive and cool. And I got into the story. Like, I think the story fell apart after the first game.
Sure.
But just the I don't know, I got really into the uphill battle of humanity trying to find any sort of advantage against this overwhelming threat, and just the desperation behind it. I got really invested into it all the time. And like I said, I think it's one of the best launch games ever, and I think one of the best debuts of a series, at least in my opinion, especially given how, for me, the subsequent games kind of got lower in quality since then. But yeah, that first game still holds up for me really well. Made quite an impression. So
nice. Yeah, that's one I've never gotten a chance to play, so to go and seek that out.
Yeah, I played it a good bit. I never got to finish them, but they were a blast. I'm sad that I didn't think about those. But
I'm curious.
You actually made me wonder if the new game that Insomniac is teasing is a Resistance game. Because that would be pretty cool. Their VR game that they're working on.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Ooh.
Yeah. The tagline is "Reclaim Your World," so that could fit into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Resistance in VR.
I'd be down. But is it on me now?
Yes, it is, sir.
That's my final option. Oh man. Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna go with Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare.
Okay.
You got it.
You gotta have that one up there. You have to. It a lot of people resonate with it because of the impact of the multiplayer. But that was also one of my favorite single player campaigns because not only I love the World War II games, and we're definitely coming full circle on that now, and everybody's going back to World War II games. But I was so ready to get into something a bit more modern. So I was like on the edge of my seat up until the release of that game, and then it came out and it executed. Like I felt like because they were able to get away from World War II, they were able to create a more, a unique story with interesting characters and take more liberties with things, and they did that, and it's a wonderful roller coaster ride from open to close. They're by no means was it as innovative as Titanfall, but because that's futuristic, of course, so there's a lot more options, but they did a good job of taking all of the things that you expect from a first-person shooter and putting you in really cool settings for you to implement them. So you'll have the stealth missions, you'll have the sniping. The sniping level is one of my favorite levels ever. It's short, it's sweet, and it just feels really, really good. And then, the fact that you failed also was really impactful, but that's just getting way into the weeds of the game. But if you haven't played it, you definitely need to. I hope there are people out there that haven't missed out on Modern Warfare 1. 2 is great as well, but just the first one's campaign just set the stage for what 2 ended up being. And it was beautiful too. At the time, that was one of the best looking games out at that time. And I think it still holds up well. So
from what I
was it that one or 2 that they started doing those live action trailers with like celebrities in them? It must have been later than that.
I think that was later. Yeah,
probably 2.
I don't even think they did that.
I don't think they.
Okay,
because I was like, I don't think they expected 1 to, or I guess not 1, but technically 4 to blow up the way
God 4.
Yeah. The first Modern Warfare, the 4th Call of Duty.
Yes.
I don't think they expected it to, because that was the Call of Duty 4 was the game that blew up Call of Duty into the juggernaut that it is today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because before that, it was just those 3 World War II games, which were fine. But I know for me personally, 4 was the game that not only got me on board with Call of Duty for the first time, but with kind of like realistic military shooters in general. Like that was never really my thing.
Right.
I tend to, and it still is until I tend to like more kind of wackier stuff. You can look at my choices for this. As a good example. But 4, I remember playing that just because of like the noise it was making. So I was like, I actually paid money. It's like, let me buy a Call of Duty game, see what this is about. And I remember, like, I still didn't care about like the nitty gritty military stuff. Like I did, like even listening to like the crazy military jargon, I'm just like, I don't know what you're saying. But but just the mission design and the set pieces, because that was the game that really started the whole, like, now it's kind of cliche, but like the crazy like action movie Michael Bay style set pieces for Call of Duty that so many shooters have aped since then. Yeah. But at the time, there was nothing like it. I remember like, oh my god, this is like a crazy action movie. This is amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
And also funny that you mentioned that sniping mission. I don't like sniping in video games. It's not fun to me, but that was one of the few times I actually enjoyed doing it. So
nice.
That's an accomplishment in its own right for Call of Duty.
Yeah. Probably because of like how it was structured, because you actually had someone spotting for you and like walking you through the process, and I think that made the difference there.
It's good for dummies like me.
Yeah, same here.
So, alrighty. So we've got our nominees. In total, we have 9. So I'm going to read through them one more time. We've got Quake 2, Binary Domain, Brothers in Arms, Road to Hill 30, Halo Combat Evolved, Titanfall 2, Doom 2016, Ghost Recon 2 Advanced Warfighter, Resistance Fall of Man, and Call of Duty 4 Advanced Warfare. It's a pretty strong list. This is going to be...
I got to throw something out there. Ian, can you guess what game got knocked off my list because of Ghost Recon?
Let me see.
Because I'm kind of surprised you didn't mention this game too. Spec Ops.
No. Oh, you know what? I almost had that on here too. Yeah, well, I thought about Spec, but Spec Ops. Yeah,
I'm assuming the line.
Yeah,
I thought about that too. I was like,
did that have multiplayer though?
It did. It did.
It did. Yeah,
the devs didn't want to make it.
They didn't. They didn't. I think the thing that held it back was that the gameplay could have been better. Like, it was going to go on almost entirely on its story.
Yeah, it definitely was
for sure.
going to go on for a story.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, it's one of those weird games where it's like you're not supposed to feel good about playing it. Like, it's a weird thing. But yeah.
Oh no, that's true. I just wish I felt good about the act of actually playing it.
Right? Yeah.
Like,
no,
like it plays fine, but there were like the flaws are too glaring. I was like, I want to include it, but like, man, if it was like, imagine if that game had like Call of Duty 4 polish, like it would be one of the best shooters ever.
Absolutely. I mean, they should just make like Call of Duty Apocalypse Now, and that would basically be the
yeah. And it's crazy that game even was what it was, because the Spec Ops games themselves before that were always kind of like the low budget military shooters.
Literal bargain bin
games. The bargain bin games. And I had a blast
like
with
literal
them because they had co-op on them, which a lot of the other ones didn't. So I had a blast with them, and then the line came about, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" And it blew me away.
Yeah, that's a great game.
It went from a series that there was a point where they were pumping out 2 of those a year to that.
Yep.
Like, I think there's got to be a place on a gaming Rushmore for Spec Ops: The Line. I don't know if it's this one. Well, it's not this one clearly, but like
we'll carve like a little note, like an honorable mention on it.
Like you can go on, like,
you have to look for it.
Yeah, like on the side of the Doom guy's nose or something like that.
It says Spec Ops was here.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds good to me.
It's spelled WUZ.
I guess if I had an honorable mention, I mean, like I really came close to putting Battlefield Bad Company 2.
Nice.
That was one that I really heavily considered.
Bad Company.
I thought about that one too.
I considered both of those games. I like both of those games a lot.
And I kicked around Battlefield. Like, I feel weird that there isn't a Battlefield, but like campaigns have been kind of like sketchy for the last little while. I did really like a lot of what Battlefield 1 did, but there's a couple missions that are pretty dumb.
Yeah.
And there's just not that much to it. But I'm hoping that they do this War Stories again with Battlefield 5. I'm looking forward to those. Like, I think that's what the plan is. But yeah, those stories I thought gave the whole conflict a little bit more a sense of scale and scope. So, but yeah, excited to see what they do with the series, because I'm a big Battlefield fan. The campaigns though have not really rated.
Yeah. I'm kind of the same boat, but it's kind of the same reason I said before of like I prefer kind of wackier stuff than super serious stuff. So those Bad Company games really spoke to me. I think the only other campaign of Battlefield that I played in its entirety was Hardline, and the less said about that, the better.
That's what I heard. I never played that one, but I did not hear good things.
Mount Trash Can.
It's not great. Alrighty. Well,
my last...
We're going to take a...
Sorry. I was going to say my last honorable mentions were Time Splitter's Future Perfect and Red Faction 2.
Okay. That's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I should have thought.
Shout out to Time Splitters too and Red Faction.
Red Faction for sure. Great.
Gotcha. Alrighty, guys. Well, we're gonna take a quick break. Get ready, dust off. Load up the chamber. Quick reloads, because we're gonna come back and we are all going to get into a proverbial shootout to determine which 4 of these 9 fantastic shooter campaigns are gonna make it on our Rushmore. We'll be right back.
The healthy human mind doesn't wake up in the morning thinking this is its last day on Earth. But I think that's a luxury, not a curse. To know you're close to the end is a kind of freedom. Good time to take inventory. Outgunned, outnumbered, out of our minds on a suicide mission. But the sand and rocks here, stained with thousands of years of warfare, they will remember us for this. Because out of all our vast array of nightmares, this is the one we choose for ourselves. We go forward like a breath exhaled from the earth. with vigor in our hearts and one goal in sight. We will kill him.
All right, we are back. We are ready to go. We are ready to determine the 4 best multiplayer shooter campaigns from our hot list of 9 choices. And let's not waste any time. Let's just throw Titanfall 2 right up there.
That's a
Titanfall 2
lot.
is clearly up there.
And
Titanfall 2.
I want to. I also want to propose that we save a little bit of time and just yank Quake 2 right off the list. You guys don't have to fight me about that one.
You're gonna formally withdraw?
Yeah, no, that one was for me, and I did not expect it to stick around. So
I respect it, man. I respect it.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So there we go, right off the bat. So Titanfall 2 is in. Quake 2, not so much.
All right.
Okay. Now. Ooh,
For the rest of
looking at what we got. And I also put the nominees in the chat.
Yeah,
You need the
looking over
reminder.
there right now.
Perfect.
I
think it's going to be very difficult for either of you to make a case against Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare.
I am not prepared to make a case against it. I don't think. Yeah, I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to fight hard against that at all. Actually.
honestly, all right. So I'm not saying I'm opposed to putting it on, but if it comes down, I feel like there's more. We have 3 spots left. There are more than 3 what I would feel be shoo-ins.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So when it comes down to, say, Call of Duty versus Halo,
That's
a tough
one.
That
is a tough one.
That starts getting bloody.
Yeah,
Yep.
That's true.
Well, speaking of bloody, I think like one of my shoe-ins, like the only one that I'm emotionally attached to anyway, would be Doom. And I don't know. Well, so that's on Marcus, your list, and mine. So it's going to kind of depend on how Charles feels about Doom.
Here's the thing. That was probably going to go on. And the thing with Doom is, while it may not appeal to me, when I played it, I totally understood all of its good points, all of its great points. Like, as I was playing it, I was like, oh my goodness, people that are Doom fans are going to love the hell out of this when I did get to try it. So I totally understand that one going onto the list. Onto Rushmore, for sure. Absolutely.
Okay. So we'll toss Doom on there.
And Doom kind of, like, if we're doing a Rushmore, I mean, it does kind of stand in for all the id
Yeah, it stands in for Quake.
games, right?
It's holding it down for id.
It stands in there
So,
for Quake.
like, Quake's going to go, and there's not going to be any other Dooms or Wolfensteins on here. But Doom kind of represents a lot of shooter campaigns, right? So
Yeah.
I feel like
Doom.
there's a strong argument to be made for it anyway.
Yeah, very true.
Doom will invite Quake to the after party. So
Yeah.
Quake still gets the mingle, but he doesn't actually get the award.
Yeah.
So he but he gets the network and stuff. So he
He's
still
hanging
kind of
out.
wins.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
I give it like a chief of staff position, or Department of the Interior.
very important.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like it might be easier to cut some.
Yeah. What can you
I could concede binary domain, but
I understand.
Damn it.
I understand. Like,
It's so
tough.
good.
It's tough because
But
we
I-
didn't play it yet. Like, we've heard good things
This is
about
true.
it. It's just
Yeah.
I almost would keep it over Resistance a little
Now
bit.
that's
Some
surprising.
elements of it. I think because again, a binary domain's so it's so.
I really
endearingly
like. I feel
goofy.
bad because like I don't have anything. Like again, I kind of feel like you, Charles. Like I know of it and I know that people like it.
yeah.
I've never felt compelled enough to play it to actually install and and go through the and actually like do much more than just kind of like mess around for a couple minutes. But
My only defense is that a majority of these, if not all of them, I'm not sure about Brother in Arms, are first-person games,
That's true.
and Binary is like the lone third-person game.
Ghost Recon 2.
Oh, that's right.
That was
Ghost
third person.
Okay, so even still, it's one of two. So
I'm kind of in the same boat with Ghost Recon 2.
If you feel like you got to get a third-person game up there,
yeah, because like y'all haven't played Ghost Recon 2, and I feel the same way. It's like it's a wonderful third-person game. You know, those tend to not get as much shine if they have a multiplayer aspect to it. And then I would put Ghost Recon over Brothers in Arms, just because it was what Brothers in Arms was magnified, like multiplied.
Okay.
Does Ghost Recon have a talking French robot?
A talking
All right, hey, you
French
guys
robot?
can.
It doesn't have a French robot.
It's got like the short circuit dude. Number 5.
There's Johnny 5? Wait, there's a
Five.
Johnny 5 in Ghost Recon?
Nah, there's just
Not really.
the little. It's basically like your supply cart robot that just follows you around, but it doesn't have
Like
a personality. Not that
Like a
type
bullet
of game.
Roomba.
Yeah.
It's like, what's the big bow ratio compared to binary domain?
Yeah, it doesn't have that,
You know,
but it also has one of my favorite moments in a game, in a shooter. Period, though, where your squad pretty much gets pinned, and you know we have like wave shooters, like as a mode now, but there was a moment in Ghost Recon 2 where it was like you guys were screwed. There were no reinforcements coming, and it was just a part of that campaign where you were stuck in this one particular area defending it. And it boils down to it being a wave shooter, but it's a very confined space that you're in with your squad.
Sure.
After having explored the majority of the campaign in a much larger space, it feels claustrophobic. And then it just like the music, because there's not a whole lot of music that plays throughout the game, but then music kicks in, and as more and more come, it just crescendos, and it's amazing. And I don't know, because of that moment and just some other things, I don't know, I won't be able to let that one go. I can let Brothers in Arms go because I feel like it's represented by Ghost Recon in a way.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
I love Brothers in Arms, but I'm almost kind of, well, no, because I'm thinking of Full Spectrum Warrior again. You do wind up actually like shooting. Because in Full Spectrum Warrior, the difference is that you're not a character. Like you're kind of like
You're the squad.
Disembodied.
You're the
squad. Yeah.
So. Yeah. In Brothers in Arms, you are the character.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Yeah.
But it's almost like what would I like? I don't know that I would think of it when I thought of shooters so much as like World War II tactics games. Like it would come up in that for me faster.
For Ghost Recon or
For Brothers in Arms. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it falls into a tough space.
Yeah, I like it. And it's one of those hybrid games that's real, like it manages to pull off what I think, well, like we said, you know, it hasn't really been meaningfully attempted. I mean, unless you count like Arma. And in Arma, it barely works. So.
Yeah, it barely works. I know what you're getting at, though.
I love Arma, man, but that AI, jeez, it's not good.
It's crazy.
Okay.
For all the depth that game has, the AI
right.
ain't it.
So
I'll concede binary domain.
Okay.
How about that? Since I can't, and I've got 2 on the list. So.
I will concede Brothers in Arms.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Ian, you have any defense for Brothers, or you?
I like it. I
like
like it. I don't know that it's on the shooter Rushmore though.
No.
As much as I love the game, but yeah. So we've gotten rid of Binary Domain, Quake 2, and Brothers in Arms, correct?
Yep. So we have remaining Halo, Ghost Recon 2, Resistance, Call of Duty, and we have 2 spots left.
Okay. So Titanfall 2 is on there.
Titanfall's on the wall.
and Doom.
Yeah.
And Doom.
Okay.
So yeah, Halo, Ghost Recon, Resistance, Call of Duty.
There's got to be. I really think that Charles is right in that a Call of Duty needs to be on the list. Like I think 4 is. I mean, it would be hard to argue that there's another one that like.
I don't think there's one that tops that one. Personally.
I mean, I would think if one
Yeah.
did, I might suggest
at least
the
one that's
original
on our
Black Ops.
list.
But yeah, like we're not talking about that game right now, so I would vote for Call of Duty for Modern Warfare to be on.
The ones that are left, hold on, let me look at it again. Call of Duty 4, Ghost Recon, Halo, and what else?
Yeah,
and Resistance. Oh, man.
So if it was me, it would be Call of Duty.
Call of Duty kind of with those four, I feel like the only one I could like legit go toe to toe with it would be Halo.
That's kind of how I feel too.
And my problem,
And
my
even
problem
I
with
have-
that is that once Call of Duty goes on, I'm feeling like, can you argue that Halo doesn't belong there?
That's what I'm
I
saying.
could.
That's my concern.
I could. Again, I have a very different perspective on Halo.
Oh yeah, we
so
didn't get it. Yeah, let's. 'Cause you mentioned that before in the first segment, Marcus. What's the like playing it now? Like
Okay.
recently, what did you feel?
Okay, so playing it now. So obviously, I played the anniversary edition, which makes it look better. And it's obviously I didn't have that magic of like, oh my god, this is so
This
revolutionary.
looks amazing.
Like,
Yeah, no,
or even just like I've never really played anything quite like this because I could see like why that was the thing, but there are parts of that campaign that are kind of annoying. Like so the flood.
Oh yeah.
When the flood when they show up, I wanted to scream at points because fighting them felt really tedious at times, and they feel too bullet spongy to me. Like they are hard, they are tough to take down, and not often in like the fun kind of way. And then those the little ones that like scamper about and come at you, like those guys.
Those are the ones that
kind of
creep me
annoying
out the
to
most.
fight.
Those little
like
the little
the, like,
Hobbit ones that
those tiny ones that like and then they can like revive dead people. Like those guys are annoying. They're not super fun to fight, especially if you don't have like the right gun for it. And what drives me nuts is that their segment lasts a really long time, and you're not really doing much other than running around and shooting them. And now I can see that it released in 2001, so
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I'm not going into it expecting Titanfall 2, but I'm just like, I kind of would like this to end now. It's still going. I'm kind of tired of fighting these guys, and there's a lot of them, and I'm feeling like I'm getting swamped, which I is the idea, but it's becoming less and less fun as this is going on because they're not super satisfying to kill. And a big part of that game is fighting guys. The Covenant I'm fine with. But that flood segment really was like, oh man. I was like, I wonder what people thought. Like outside of the cool surprise of like, oh crap, there's a whole other enemy in this game.
But then what made it cool, but I don't disagree that it was annoying because it was. Like fighting the flood actually did kind of suck for, I mean, I think it was awesome at the time. Like, do you guys have a moment that you remember when you realized that, oh yeah, games can be bad? Like there's certain things that you just kind of don't realize prior to that happening. Like, and for me, I think it was sometime and like I'm old, so whatever. But like, at that time for shooters, like there wasn't enough to compare that against to realize, well, this is maybe not that great.
Right.
At the time, it felt very fresh and new. Even though it was annoying, we were kind of used to being annoyed by shooters at the time because they would pull stuff like that sometimes. Not in the same unique way, which I think makes Halo stand out. But but yeah, that kind of like just punish you with bullshit kind of thing was not uncommon.
Yeah, you're right because I played. I got more into shooters as I got a little bit older. I'm only a few years younger than you, I think, Ian. But so yeah, I don't know. Just playing that, I was just kind of fascinated playing this, and I was like, huh. I was like, I wonder, like, is it just like a time and place thing? Like, were people cool with this back in the day? Because I'm like genuinely annoyed and like occasionally upset because I'm dying so much, and I'm just tired of fighting these guys. And it's a significant section of the game, so it's not. I gave it right off. It's like, well, it's that one mission, and it's not that big. They're like, no, this is pretty big section you're dealing with these guys. Other than that, that's kind of my my biggest kind of like black eye on that campaign. I mean, everything else is
Mhm.
it's fine. It's not like, again, having a modern take on it. It's like nothing super jumped out at me. Like the story, I was a little let down by. I think because I've had years of people talking about Halo's story with this reverence. So I was like, man, this is gonna be, Game of Thrones or something. Here,
Okay,
I guess.
yeah, no, absolutely
And
not the case.
The first game story, I'm just like, oh, that's it.
Yeah. No,
Like,
we definitely have more fond memories of like the books versus like the first game story.
yeah, like I have played Halo 2 to its completion. Like I played it right after that, and that seems to be where the story really gets interesting.
But even that,
Like,
had
okay,
some
one.
issues.
Yeah, it does, but I was far more engaged in the puzzle. Like maybe this is the game where people got on board with the story. Because the first game is like, it's pretty straightforward and not.
There's not,
super...
not a whole lot going on. But yeah, watch Red versus Blue instead. It's So
I see. I've seen more of that than most Halo until
yeah,
recently.
I mean, it's legitimately more entertaining. But
okay.
So, like, I'm not saying that, but here's what I would say in favor of Halo, and I'll say this, and that'll be it. But Halo, again, I feel like it's almost representative of a whole arc of game design and titles, right? Like, you've got the whole Halo series that came off of that gives us the Bungie that we have today, and that gives us Destiny. So, and I actually kind of thought about talking about Destiny on this list, but I realized that would be dumb because the campaigns for that are not awesome. But anyway, but you do have this whole kind of amazing Bungie design in shooters. So I feel like Halo kind of means more than just the one title, if that makes sense.
I mean, you're right, but in this case, we are arguing just the one.
We
title.
are, yeah. But look,
So-
you're putting on, I don't know. These are titles that loom large, I think, too. Well, they may or they may not, I guess. But I don't know. I would say that in favor of Halo. You have Halo, so you can eventually one day have Destiny.
Okay.
Well,
So
I
I
actually
just
consider
realized
that
that
a
the-
negative mark
Okay.
because
Not a Destiny fan.
no, because the campaign in Destiny sucks. So,
It's not good.
and we're focusing on campaigns, so I'm counting that as a negative.
Fair enough. Okay, let's say Halo's gone then.
Well, I've noticed that there's 3 left, and they're each one of ours. So we each have a dog in the fight.
Okay.
I'll
back off
I have
on
not
Halo.
played. I have not played Ghost Recon, so I can't speak to that. The only thing I could say is like, in terms of resistance, is that, and granted, this is an unfair argument to a degree, but like, resistance does more. Like, just as a game, obviously, it doesn't have anywhere near the legacy that Halo does. Absolutely
Sure.
not. But as a game, it's better. And granted, it came out 5 years after Halo, so
Okay, well,
technology, design evolved over time. So, it has time on its side, of course. So, but I was actually surprised that outside of the lack of Gears nominations, that the first Halo was the only Halo. I actually expected Halo 2 more than the first one. I thought someone would say that.
I can
the-
tell you
the
I
other reason
didn't
Halo's on, yeah.
because it gets wacky as hell towards the end. Like,
Oh, it gets crazy when you talk to a giant plant
yeah,
dude.
and then like not only does that happen, it doesn't really feel like they pick that up and continue. It's kind of it feels like some of it
I
they
think
just
the only-
ignore and they move on.
Yeah, like it's a more fun campaign because of like just how many crazy places, except for that cliffhanger that nobody seemed to have been happy with.
Right.
I obviously, again, playing it super late, I have the luxury of just immediately jumping to Halo 3.
Yeah, that's
so-
true. And
But I completely understand because like watching that ending, and I was like, man, I can see why people are pissed off about this.
yeah, and I never
I get it now.
I've never felt like, and it's probably unfair in some regards, but when you compare Halo to a lot of the Halo games campaigns to some of the others, there's a lot of fat in those campaigns.
There is. Yep.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
there's a
there
lot of just hey, this set piece would be cool just to have people shoot around in a little
There's
little bit.
a noticeable Yeah. In the campaigns that I've played, there's a noticeable lack of like meaningful variety. It's kind of like you're just shooting dudes down a path. It's fun because the shooting feels really good, but outside of like grabbing a vehicle now and again, that's kind of it.
Yeah. Exactly. Like,
if I'm completely honest, I've never been a huge fan of the vehicle segments either. So,
no, they outside of like, I mean, Warhogs, I hate controlling those things, and like I think the only ones I'm kind of okay with are the giant tanks things, just because they move too slow to like screw up.
Yeah,
I did enjoy flying in the second one.
Okay,
those moments were cool.
I hated that one flying mission where you're when you get who's the Covenant guy, the Arbiter. When you have to do like a big thing with him, like that was hard. That went on too long, basically. And I was like, this is a habit of the series. I'm like, they have some segments that kind of overstay their welcome at times. Kind of, I guess, speaking to like that padding that you guys were talking about.
I think the legacy of Halo is stronger than the actual campaign of Halo 1.
I think that's probably true. Yeah.
I will say, if we look at the 3 games that we do have on the list, all 3 play... I mean, Titanfall and Doom are really recent, so like a legacy, so to speak, hasn't been really established. 4 plays today still super good. If that remastered edition is any indication.
Yeah, and I mean, Call of Duty 4, I don't know if it established it, but I mean, it really solidified what Call of Duty is now, I think, too. So, I mean,
it did.
Yeah. It's, I think that's kind of my only defense of like, at least Resistance versus Halo in particular. I can't really speak to Ghost Recon unless, Charles, if you have any argument you'd like to say for Ghost Recon taking the last spot, if you have any passionate defense for it.
Let me see if I can put this together correctly. It's really difficult since y'all haven't played it, but no, I don't really think I can, because like there's a lot of things like just thinking about it that are even like just smaller details that I thought were wonderful, just because it's also that one is into the future a bit, so there was a lot of things they did with the UI that were different. Because of like how the soldier was equipped, and I don't know, it's just getting way off into the weeds. I just hope that y'all get an opportunity to play it one day. I would love if they remastered it for sure, because I think it would stand up.
Didn't it become backwards compatible on Xbox One, or was that a different?
It may have. I wouldn't be surprised.
I thought I read a recent news story where one of them you can play on Xbox One now.
I hope so. I'd have to do that.
Okay.
But no,
man, these are 3 very different games.
They are. Because like some of the stuff with Ghost Recon is just so unfair because it has the tactical.
Because Ghost Recon's more
element of it.
Yeah, like Ghost Recon's more tactical. Halo's pretty straightforward, kind of arcadey issue, and the Resistance is, I guess, closer in the Halo camp, but just more going on.
And I guess Ghost Recon.
I'm not sensing a lot of support for Halo, so like that's fine to drop. I mean, no worries there.
Charles, or what do you think?
What are the last 3? Ghost Recon, Halo, and what's the other one? Resistance?
Yep.
I'm going to say Resistance because there's ridiculous reasons.
You played Resistance too, right?
And slightly ridiculous, but this is just what it's boiling down to at this point. I want some science fiction on this Mount Rushmore. Some more.
I mean,
we got
to do with Titanfall.
Oh, yeah, we do have Titanfall.
You got Talking Mech. It's pretty sci-fi.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm fine with that.
I just like I guess we didn't have aliens, which Doom had the representative for that, but
we didn't.
I don't know.
We didn't get aliens.
That's weird. Do you consider this is unrelated, but hell, are demons? Could you consider them?
Well, no, I just said they're the representative for the aliens. So like, just
yeah.
But
no, I'm just like the idea of that is like interesting to me. It's like, they're technically not of this earth.
That's true.
Or are they? Depending on where hell is actually situated. But
valid.
I mean, legally speaking, I guess they're aliens.
Yeah.
If we check the Cacademon's papers, we can.
But yeah, let's pull. You know what we didn't talk about and maybe should have was nobody brought up Borderlands. I don't know if that
because
It's weird because it's like
the
it
criteria-
doesn't have a separate multiplayer mode.
Yeah, the criteria.
It's just part of this.
disqualified it because of
Yeah.
that. Like it definitely would have been on there because Borderlands 2 is amazing and one of the best.
That's what I was
campaigns
thinking.
ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 is the best one to me.
Yeah, but
The first one ended so poorly that I would have, I think.
Yeah, well, the first one just barely had much of a narrative going on. It was very, very light,
Mhm.
and whereas 2 had a full-on story.
it was very entertaining
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, shout out to Borderlands.
Shout out to
real
Borderlands.
quick. Hope we see a third one in 83.
You will not, but
Okay, well, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. It'll be Battleborn 2.
Oh, good. Well, Randy Pitchford still does run that company, so.
He's like, this time for sure, guys.
Yeah.
We got it. We figured it out.
Look, he is a magician, I just want to say. So, anything could happen. Okay, so
All right, so I guess
we're down
you're-
to... It's either Ghost Recon or Resistance, right?
Yeah, have you played Resistance, Ian? Did we establish that?
No, I have not. I have played neither of these games, so
You're kind.
I kind of
Charles.
can't-
I feel like
Yeah.
you're the only one that's played both of them, so I guess you kind of have.
Oh, that's rough. I'm so biased towards tactical games, but I'm gonna go with Resistance. Actually,
really
I'm
okay.
gonna go with Resistance.
Ian, I mean,
I'm not going to disagree.
Uneducated.
It sounds okay to me. I think I like the. Well, we have the modern military shooter represented, right?
Yes.
We have the old school represented with Quake 2. We are getting kind of a sci-fi thing with going with Resistance, and Titanfall 2 has the wacky ideas, and some of the most, like, just on its own, all other things being equal, just like these, like the level design focus. That's I think important if you're going to talk about shooter campaigns. So if this is the way that the top 4, I'm happy with it.
Yeah. Resistance.
I would
has
say
the
to make
alien
it feel
invasion.
better, you could say Resistance also kind of represents World War II.
Okay.
You got the World War II.
Yeah. Alternate
wrapped in
history
there,
stuff
so.
is pretty good.
And
Yeah.
And then Titanfall 2 is its own class, basically. I don't even know how you would describe
Yeah, because Titanfall of sci-fi just doesn't
super
have like
good.
an alien component to it, which we get in Resistance.
So
Very
Alrighty.
satisfied with this Mount Rushmore.
we got it. So on our Mount Rushmore, we have Titanfall 2, Doom 2016, Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare, and Resistance, Fall of Man. And I will say right now, I did not expect Resistance to make it on this mountain, but I ain't mad at it.
It's a good one.
And it's just from a visual standpoint, it'll look really cool. Like you got a mech, I don't know, maybe you could put Doom Guy, but maybe you could put a demon on there.
Yeah. Put a
Yeah.
cyber demon on there. Hell yeah.
Yeah, put that on there. You got to get Captain Price and his amazing like Lemmy stash on the mountain, and then you can throw a Chimera up there. It's nice. It's a good visual.
I
And kind of-
legit want to see this Mount Rushmore, actually.
I know, right? Same.
if you are an artist listening to the show, feel free to make a mock-up of what this Mount Rushmore would look like, and send it to us on Twitter. Which, by the way, Ian I'm gonna
It's
screw up
okay,
your
man.
name again.
Oh,
Ian, where can they find you on Twitter? And feel free to plug anything that you're working on as well.
Oh no, yeah. If you want to follow anything that I'm doing, Twitter's the best place to find that. In the midst of all the shit posting, you can find me there at iBourdreau. That's IBOUDREAU.
All right, cool. And Mr. Charles, where can I find you on Twitter and what you got going on?
Twitter, _CSJR. I tweet way too much, so follow at your own risk. And I write for shacknews.com. Of course, come to Shack News. We do some incredible stuff over there. And I also host Coins to Continue with the incredible Pikachu Leader, which we're not going to be doing podcast episodes until after E3. But I want to send her all of the love in the world. She is an incredible human being. One of the dopest people I've ever met. And that's all.
Aw.
Oh, I should probably say
Nice.
I do a podcast too. It's Video Games Were a Mistake. It's newer, so we don't have a whole lot of episodes up. But yeah, that's at vgwham.com, and my buddies Michael Benson and Jermaine Kryptonite Pulliam do that together. So, but yeah, if you want to check that out, that's vgwam.com.
Yeah, and I didn't even say the name of the podcast that I'm on. It's Coins to Continue. Coins, the number 2, continue on Twitter. You can find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, a whole bunch of places.
It's a good podcast. I like it.
Whoop!
Almost as good as this one.
Almost.
Oh, you flatter me, show. You flatter me.
Hey, look, I want to make a good impression.
Trying to campaign to get back on the show.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, thanks a lot for that. And yeah, guys, be sure to check out both of those awesome podcasts. And if you'd like to find me on Twitter, I am at MarcusStewart7. That is the number 7. You can also find me on my personal website, marcuswritesAboutGames.wordpress.com. You can also find me occasionally on GamingHistoria.com, as well as ExtraLife.com, where I'll be busy with E3 coverage. Be flying out there in about a week or so. And yeah, if you have any topics that you'd like to hear covered on the show, be sure to shoot me a message on social media. So until next time, we've got more mountains that we have to carve, more topics we've got to discuss, more crazy just debates to get into, and more video games to talk about. So until next time, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.